The quiet moments before you reach for an answer often say more than the words you eventually speak. Think about how many times you have sat in silence, staring at the ceiling or out of a window, hoping that life itself would whisper something back to you. This silence, both heavy and expectant, is where our journey begins. Many people arrive here carrying exhaustion. Exhaustion from unanswered prayers, from dreams that never seem to manifest, from the nagging thought that maybe the universe has turned its face away. Yet even within that fatigue lives a hidden flame, the hope that there is still a way to connect, to listen, to understand the signals life has been offering all along. The purpose of this introduction is not to provide immediate solutions, but to create an atmosphere where your soul can breathe. Too often we rush into practices and techniques without pausing to acknowledge the emotional landscape we are standing in. Disappointment, frustration, the feeling of being cut off from something greater. These are not signs of weakness, but invitations. They are the very reasons why the act of learning how to converse with the universe is not only valuable, but necessary. By facing these emotions, we allow them to soften and make space for a deeper clarity. As we move forward, you will see that the universe does not communicate in a single language. It speaks in patterns, in timing, in the subtle nudges that often disguise themselves as coincidences. It asks for your attention, but not the kind of attention that strains and grasps. It asks for intention, but not one built on desperation or control. And finally, it asks for surrender, not as resignation, but as a sacred trust that the current will carry you exactly where you are meant to be. These three pillars, attention, intention, and surrender, form the foundation of everything you are about to discover. So let this be the invitation, to slow down, to listen differently, and to approach this path not as someone who is lost, but as someone who is learning how to read a map written in stars, in moments, in synchronicities. You will not be asked to believe blindly, nor to silence your doubts. Instead, you will be guided to weave them into your process, to let them refine your perception, and to transform them into stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. By the end of this journey, you may realize that the conversation with the universe never stopped. It was your awareness that needed tuning, your inner language that needed reshaping, and now you are ready to begin. There is a particular stillness that arrives when you stop trying to wrestle meaning from every moment and instead allow yourself to truly observe. Attention, in this sense, is not simply the act of looking at something. It is the art of resting your awareness in such a way that the world begins to reveal its hidden layers. Most people confuse attention with tension. They strain, they force, they chase after signs as if they were prizes to be won. But the kind of attention that opens a dialogue with the universe is soft, receptive, and unwavering, much like the steady flame of a candle that burns without flicker. When you give your attention in this way, you are not demanding answers, but creating space for them to appear. Imagine standing at the edge of a forest. If you rush through the trees, eager to find meaning, you will miss the subtle trail left by a deer, the broken twig, the faint sound of movement. But if you pause, breathe, and simply listen, you begin to notice what was invisible before. The universe speaks in similar whispers, through small alignments, through patterns you would overlook if your mind were too noisy. Attention is the clearing that allows those signals to be heard. This quality of attention is cultivated in the body as much as in the mind. A restless body often creates a restless perception. The shoulders drawn upward, the chest constricted, the breath shallow. These are not simply physical states, but signals to your nervous system that the world is unsafe, that vigilance is necessary. In such a state, your attention narrows to survival. To open the field of awareness, the body must first be invited into ease. A long exhale, a softened jaw, the gentle release of tension in the hands. These small adjustments expand your inner space, and suddenly, the external space mirrors this openness. The universe does not shout, it mirrors. There is also a discipline to attention. It is not enough to sit quietly once and expect the floodgates to open. Attention is trained over time, like a muscle that grows stronger each day you choose to use it. The ancients often spoke of cultivating the watcher, a part of you that notices without judgment, that observes without clinging. This inner witness becomes the lens through which signals are perceived. Without it, everything blurs together, and you cannot distinguish between coincidence and synchronicity. between random noise and meaningful alignment. The paradox of attention is that it must be both precise and gentle. Too much precision, and you begin to manipulate what you see, twisting reality to fit your desire. Too much gentleness, and your awareness drifts aimlessly, catching fragments, but never the whole. The middle ground is an attentive stillness, like the hunter who waits silently, not forcing the animal to appear but prepared for its arrival. This is the stance that allows the universe to communicate. Think also about how attention reshapes perception. Two people can walk down the same street, yet one sees only obstacles and noise, while the other notices patterns of beauty, unexpected encounters, symbols that seem to speak directly to the heart. The difference is not the street itself, but the field of attention each one carries. When your attention is cluttered with fear or urgency, you see only what confirms those feelings. When your attention is spacious and grounded, you see connections that point you toward growth. The outer world reflects the inner lens. The challenge for many is that attention gets hijacked by longing. You want a sign so badly that you begin to interpret every small thing as proof. A song on the radio, a number on a license plate, a phrase overheard. They all become inflated, heavy with projection. This does not mean that these things cannot be genuine signals. Rather, the clarity lies in the quality of attention you bring. If you are desperate, the signs become distorted. If you are patient, the signals unfold with coherence. The universe has no need to trick you, but your longing can easily blur the truth. Cultivating attention also involves practice in silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of listening. In a world saturated with distraction, silence is a radical act. It strips away the constant pull of information, allowing the subtler voice of life to be heard. Silence trains you to tolerate the absence of immediate answers. It teaches you to dwell in the interval between question and response. This interval, uncomfortable at first, is the very ground where signals ripen. Without it, you are merely filling the air with your own noise, never allowing the universe to speak back. There is something deeply humbling about this practice. Attention reminds you that you are not the only speaker in this conversation. Life is always responding, but not on your timeline, not according to your demands. Your role is to refine the quality of your listening, to polish the lens through which reality is perceived. In doing so, you discover that the universe is not silent. It is continuously alive with meaning, waiting for you to tune into the right frequency. Let us consider a moment from everyday life. You are sitting in a cafe, lost in your thoughts, and suddenly a stranger at the next table mentions a phrase that directly relates to a decision you have been struggling with. The untrained mind may brush this off as coincidence, but the attentive mind pauses. It notices the timing, the relevance, the improbability. It holds the moment gently, not forcing it into significance, but recognizing its potential. This is what attention makes possible, the ability to discern subtle threads that weave your inner world with the outer. As you deepen this practice, you begin to see attention not as something you direct, but as something you embody. It becomes a state of being rather than an action you perform. You walk and your steps are attentive. You listen and your silence is attentive. You rest and your breath is attentive. From this place, signs do not need to be chased. They find you. Patterns emerge effortlessly because your field is receptive. In this way, attention becomes not just a skill, but a way of living in constant dialogue with the greater whole. This chapter, then, is not about techniques alone, but about reorienting your entire relationship with awareness. Attention is the doorway to conversation with the universe. It is how you clear the static, how you create the stillness where signals can echo, how you align yourself to receive what has always been present. Without attention, intention becomes noise and surrender becomes passivity. With attention, both intention and surrender find their rightful ground. The universe, vast and mysterious, is always speaking. The question is, will you quiet yourself long enough and gently enough to truly hear? Beneath every action you take, beneath every word you speak, there is an invisible current shaping the direction of your life. That current is intention. Unlike a fleeting wish or a passing desire, intention carries weight. It is not only an idea in your mind, it is the alignment of your thoughts, emotions, and body toward a specific outcome. Many people confuse intention with wanting, but wanting often comes from a place of lack, while intention emerges from clarity and inner coherence. The difference may seem subtle, yet it defines whether your conversation with the universe resonates or fades into silence. Intention can be imagined as the arrow released from a bow. The clarity of your aim, the steadiness of your hand, and the strength of your release all determine how far and how true that arrow will travel. If your aim trembles, if your posture is misaligned, the arrow wavers. In the same way, when your inner world is scattered, when your words, emotions, and body pull in different directions, the universe receives a signal blurred with contradiction. This is why so many intentions fall short, not because the universe refuses to respond, but because the message was never clear to begin with. The essence of intention lies in congruence. Your words must be supported by your emotions, and your emotions must be anchored in your body. You may speak of abundance, but if your chest tightens with fear, if your breath shortens with anxiety, the deeper message contradicts the surface request. Intention is not measured by how loudly you declare your goals, but by how consistently your inner state matches them. The universe listens not to volume, but to harmony. Consider how intention interacts with attention. Without attention, intention loses its direction. It becomes a vague hope scattered across too many channels. Without intention, attention lacks purpose. It observes but never creates movement. Together they form a dialogue. Attention opens the space. Intention gives it shape. One prepares the soil, the other plants the seed. To manifest, both are required, and both must be cultivated with care. A key aspect of intention is the energy behind it. When intention is born from desperation, it carries the vibration of fear, even if the words are hopeful. When intention arises from trust and clarity, it carries a frequency that aligns with opportunity. This does not mean that you must feel perfect before setting an intention. It means that your intention should emerge from the part of you that is steady, not from the part of you that panics. Every human being has both, and the art lies in choosing which voice you allow to speak to the universe. Think of intention as a compass rather than a command. A command demands reality to bend immediately. A compass quietly points to the direction of alignment, guiding each step you take. When you set an intention with patience, you recognize that the path may shift, that unexpected turns may be part of the unfolding. The arrow may not land exactly where you imagined, but it will take you closer to the heart of your truth. Intention is less about forcing outcomes and more about aligning your inner being with a direction that feels deeply authentic. There is also a practice of simplifying intention. Many people attempt to carry too many at once, scattering their energy. They declare abundance, healing, love, success, and peace all in the same breath, and yet their actions fragment into small, unfocused gestures. The most effective intentions are often the simplest. One clear sentence, rooted in sincerity, can hold more power than an elaborate list. I choose to live in integrity. I open myself to meaningful opportunities. These statements carry force because they are not diluted. They echo through the body and the heart with resonance. Intention, when aligned with your daily life, becomes embodied. It is not confined to meditation or ritual. It permeates your choices, your posture, your tone of voice, your rhythm of living. If your intention is to cultivate peace, then peace must be practiced in the way you respond to conflict, in the pace of your breath while waiting in traffic, in the way you speak to yourself when you make a mistake. The universe listens not only to your words, but to the totality of how you live them. Every action becomes a message, every gesture a continuation of your intention. To understand intention fully, you must also embrace its relationship with surrender. Intention sets the direction, but surrender allows the universe to choose the form. If you cling too tightly to how the outcome must appear, your energy constricts, and you miss the unexpected pathways that could carry you more gracefully. True intention is like releasing the arrow without chasing it through the air. You trust that it will land where it needs to, and you remain open to the lessons that emerge along the way. There is a profound humility in setting an intention. You acknowledge that while you are a co-creator, you are not the sole architect of reality. Your role is to clarify the signal, to embody the direction, and to step into alignment. The rest belongs to the larger intelligence that weaves through all things. This humility does not diminish your power. It magnifies it because it places you in harmony with forces far greater than your individual will. Intention is not about controlling the universe, but about becoming coherent enough that the universe can move through you. It is the steady pulse that carries your energy beyond the confines of your mind, into the living field that surrounds you. When you learn to hold this pulse with clarity, sincerity, and trust, you begin to see how life responds. Doors open, coincidences align, conversations arrive at the exact moment you need them. These are not accidents. They are responses to the signal you have consistently sent. In the end, the power of intention is not measured by the speed of its results, but by the depth of your alignment. It is about living each day with a clarity that shapes your choices, a sincerity that softens your heart, and a trust that allows the universe to meet you halfway. With attention, you learn to listen. With intention, you learn to speak. Together, they create the first half of the conversation with the universe. The other half, as you will soon discover, lies in the art of surrender. There comes a moment in every seeker's path when effort must give way to trust. After you have cultivated attention and clarified your intention, you reach the threshold where surrender becomes essential. Many misunderstand this stage, imagining surrender as giving up or abandoning desire altogether. In truth, surrender is the most active form of trust you can embody. It is not resignation, but recognition, the acknowledgement that you have done your part, and now the larger currents of life must be allowed to move. To surrender is to rest in the space between action and outcome. It is to plant the seed, water the soil, and then step back so that the invisible forces of growth can do their work. If you dig up the seed every day to check its progress, you disrupt the very process you long to see unfold. In the same way, when you cling anxiously to how your desire should manifest, you interfere with the natural unfolding of your intention. Surrender asks you to release your grip, not on the dream itself, but on the form and the timing through which it arrives. The essence of surrender lies in humility. You recognize that your perspective, as vast as it may feel, is still partial. The universe sees from angles you cannot, weaving connections and opportunities beyond your immediate vision. By surrendering, you honor the greater intelligence at play. This humility does not strip you of power. Rather, it aligns you with a deeper strength, one that no amount of control could ever replicate. In surrender, you allow life to meet you halfway, bringing you not only what you asked for, but often what you truly needed. Surrender also heals the tension between control and chaos. Many live at one of two extremes, either grasping desperately for control, trying to bend every detail to their will, or abandoning themselves to chaos, believing they have no influence at all. Surrender is the middle path. It honors the role of your intention while making space for mystery. You steer the boat, but you let the river carry you. You act, but you also listen. You move forward, but you allow yourself to be surprised. This practice is not easy, for it requires tolerance for uncertainty. The human mind is wired to seek closure, to resolve ambiguity quickly, to grasp at anything that reduces discomfort. Surrender invites you to dwell in the unknown with grace. At first, this may feel like standing in darkness, but over time you begin to notice how the darkness is alive with subtle light. You realize that the waiting itself shapes you, teaching patience, resilience, and trust. What you become during the space of surrender often matters more than the outcome itself. The beauty of surrender is that it transforms the way you interpret signals. When you are clinging tightly, every delay feels like rejection, every obstacle like punishment. But when you surrender, you see delays as redirection, obstacles as invitations to grow stronger, pauses as sacred timing. You begin to understand that the universe is not withholding, but guiding. The signals you receive become clearer, not because they have changed, but because your perspective has softened enough to perceive their meaning without distortion. Imagine standing before a vast ocean. You cannot control the tide, but you can learn to read the waves. Surrender is this reading, the willingness to work with the rhythms of life rather than against them. Some days the tide will carry you swiftly forward, other days it may pull you back. Both are necessary. Both are part of the journey. When you surrender, you stop fighting the current and begin to trust its wisdom, even when it carries you into unknown waters. It is also important to recognize that surrender is not a one-time act, but a continuous practice. Each new stage of life asks you to release control again, to soften once more, to trust deeper than before. Just as attention must be trained and intention must be clarified, surrender must be renewed. It is a rhythm, a cycle, a breathing out after the long inhale of effort. The more you practice it, the more natural it becomes, until surrender is no longer an effort, but a way of being. The paradox is that true surrender often brings results more swiftly than grasping ever could. When your energy is tight with control, you block the flow of possibilities. But when you soften, opportunities emerge unexpectedly. A chance meeting, a sudden idea, a door opening where you least expected, all of these are the gifts of surrender. You discover that by letting go of how things must happen, you allow them to happen in ways more aligned and abundant than you could have planned. In the end, surrender is the art of trust in action. It is the willingness to release fear's grip, to stand open-handed before the mystery, to believe that life is not against you, but for you. When paired with attention and intention, surrender completes the circle of dialogue with the universe. You listen, you speak, and then you release, making room for the answer to arrive. This is not passivity, but participation at the deepest level, where your will and the will of the universe meet in harmony. To surrender is to remember that you are part of something vast, a living field of intelligence that is always in motion. You are not abandoned. You are not forgotten. You are held within rhythms older than time, guided by currents that know your path better than you do. When you learn to rest in that truth, you discover a freedom no amount of control could ever give you. And in that freedom, the conversation with the universe becomes not a struggle, but a song, one that carries you forward gently and surely into the unfolding of your life. There is a mysterious thread woven through the fabric of life, connecting inner thought with outer event, personal longing with collective rhythm. This thread is what many call synchronicity. Unlike coincidence, which is dismissed as random, synchronicity carries with it a sense of weight, an echo of meaning that cannot be explained by chance alone. It is the gentle brush of the universe against your awareness, the moment when the inner world and the outer world align in a way that feels unmistakably intentional. Synchronicity reveals itself most often when the mind has softened and the heart has opened. It rarely arrives in moments of frantic grasping when you are demanding immediate proof. Instead, it appears like a whisper carried on the wind, subtle, timely, and always resonant with the question you hold within. A conversation overheard, a symbol appearing repeatedly, a meeting with someone who speaks the words you most needed to hear. All of these moments point to an invisible dialogue unfolding. The meaning is not in the event alone, but in the way it intersects with the story of your life. To recognize synchronicity, you must first learn to distinguish it from projection. The longing mind can paint significance on anything, turning random events into supposed confirmations. True synchronicity has a different quality. It carries improbability, arising in contexts that feel too precise to dismiss. It carries relevance, speaking directly to your situation in ways that resonate beyond the surface. And it carries continuity, often repeating or linking with other signals until the message is undeniable. These three threads, improbability, relevance, continuity, form the fabric of authentic synchronicity. The experience of synchronicity is not merely about receiving signs, but about being transformed by them. When you encounter a genuine alignment, it shifts something within you. It may give you courage to act, clarity to decide, or reassurance that you are on the right path. The event itself matters less than the inner movement it creates. Synchronicity is the universe's way of nudging you toward coherence, showing you where your attention, intention, and surrender have found resonance with the larger field of life. There is also a practical rhythm to synchronicity. It does not ask you to abandon logic or to stop making grounded decisions. Rather, it invites you to weave intuition with reason, inner knowing with external action. A synchronicity may open a door, but you must still choose to walk through it. It may highlight a possibility, but you must still decide whether it aligns with your values and integrity. In this way, synchronicity becomes a partnership rather than a prescription. The signs do not control you, they converse with you. Think of synchronicity as a mirror held up by the universe. It reflects back what is most alive within you. If you are steeped in fear, you may notice signals that echo fear. If you are aligned with love, you may notice doors that invite you deeper into connection. This is why the cultivation of inner clarity matters so deeply. The universe is always reflecting, but what it reflects depends on the state of your own being. When your inner world is chaotic, the signals appear chaotic. When your inner world is aligned, the signals appear coherent. One of the profound gifts of synchronicity is its ability to restore faith. For those who have felt abandoned by life, who carry the wound of unanswered prayers, synchronicity becomes a reminder that they are still part of a larger story. It is a gentle reassurance that the universe is responsive, that meaning is not absent, but waiting to be noticed. This restoration of faith often arrives in small ways at first, subtle reminders that blossom into larger confirmations as trust is rebuilt. The danger lies in becoming addicted to signs. When every moment is forced into a message, the beauty of synchronicity is lost. It is no longer a dialogue but a compulsion. True synchronicity cannot be manufactured. It arises naturally, in its own timing, as a byproduct of your alignment with life. To chase after it is to miss its essence. To welcome it with humility is to allow it to do its true work, guiding you without binding you, confirming without controlling. Synchronicity also teaches patience. Sometimes the sign does not appear immediately after the question is asked. The universe often speaks in its own rhythm, weaving together circumstances that take time to unfold. When the signal finally arrives, it carries with it the richness of timing, the sense that everything happened exactly when it was meant to. To demand answers prematurely is to miss the depth of meaning that synchronicity can offer when allowed to ripen. Ultimately, synchronicity is less about prediction and more about participation. It is not a tool to control the future, but an invitation to engage with the present more fully. When you notice the threads weaving through your days, you realize that life is not a random scattering of events, but a tapestry with hidden order. You are not merely drifting through chaos. You are part of a symphony, each note connected to the next, each pause as important as the sound. To live in awareness of synchronicity is to walk through the world with eyes open to wonder. It is to trust that the ordinary is infused with extraordinary meaning, that the mundane can become sacred when you are attuned. It is to see your life not as an isolated journey, but as a conversation with a living, breathing universe. In that conversation, synchronicity is the language of affirmation, the reminder that you are seen, heard, and guided. And as you continue to cultivate attention, intention, and surrender, the language becomes clearer, the signals stronger, the dialogue deeper. In this way, synchronicity becomes not just a phenomenon, but a way of being in constant communion with the mystery that holds us all. As this journey draws to a close, remember that the conversation with the universe is not something abstract or distant. It is living, breathing, and available to you in every moment. Attention invites you to quiet the noise and observe with clarity. Intention gives your energy a direction, a coherent signal that life can respond to. Surrender opens the space for outcomes to unfold beyond your limited vision, teaching you that trust is the soil where miracles grow. And synchronicity becomes the reflection, the language of alignment that reminds you, without a doubt, that you are seen, guided, and connected. These practices are not separate threads, but one woven tapestry. When you live in this rhythm, every silence carries meaning, every choice becomes aligned, and every delay or detour transforms into a teacher. The universe is not outside of you, nor is it against you. It flows through you, around you, and in partnership with you. To live this way is to replace anxiety with trust, doubt with awareness, and control with a deep sense of participation in something far greater. The true gift of this path is not simply receiving signs or answers, but realizing that you are never isolated. You belong to a vast and intelligent field of life that continually responds to your presence. Your role is not to force, but to align, not to demand, but to listen, not to predict, but to participate. In this state, you discover that meaning is not rare. It is everywhere, waiting for your eyes to soften and your heart to open. The universe is speaking to you already. The question is, are you ready to listen, to respond, and to walk in harmony with the conversation that has been unfolding around you all along? What if the very sign you've been waiting for is the one you're receiving right now, in this moment? Let that question echo within you. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel so that you can continue walking deeper into these teachings with us. And before you go, stay with me a little longer. On the screen, you will see the next video waiting for you. It is the continuation of this journey, filled with insights that can take your understanding even further. Allow yourself to keep moving, keep listening, and keep aligning. This is not the end. It is only the beginning of your dialogue with the universe.